I actually made a list this past week of just trade targets, and I kind of wanted to get your reaction to it. We can go through these players, or if there's a certain player that you want to zero on in and maybe you think it's a possibility. We have Bobby Portis, DeAndre Hunter, Lonzo Ball, Kelly Oubre Jr., Cameron Thomas, Malcolm Brogdon, Mike Conley, Anthony Simons, CJ McCollum, or Colin Sexton.
This is a good list. I think right off the bat, the name that I'd look at right away is just Lonzo, because I am a firm believer that the team needs a secondary ball handler and someone who can kind of take pressure off Cade. And Cade makes it look great, obviously, like he did last night. But there are lulls sometimes where either he's out of the game or if he's being blitzed and different things like that. So Lonzo, I think, could be a good option. Obviously, there's the injury history there with Lonzo. I think he's like also around my age, I want to say. I think Lonzo's like 28, 27-ish. Let me see. 27. So I think he is still on the younger side. I think it was like his meniscus or something. I know he has like severe knee issues, so I don't know how long that'll last. But yeah, he's the first person I would say. Ant Simons is great too, but I still want Cade to like not have someone who is as ball dominant as him. Like it would be clear that Lonzo is like filling a specific role. So
yeah, I feel like Lonzo makes too much sense, to the point where I'm like, there's no way, because like I'm to the point where I'm listening to NBA podcasts way too much. You're like a Brian Windhorst say you might get bought out because there's no trade market for him, which I don't. I mean, like 20 million expiring is kind of high, but I mean, to your point, like when K does go to the bench, no knock at Marcus Sasser. I think they're playing him out of position. Like I think if you were able to get Alonzo and still have Marcus Sasser on your team, you could play Sasser off ball, which I think the Pistons have been doing a little bit more as of late with Cade out there, kind of experimenting with those two in the backcourt together. But Lonzo would be really high on my list. The other guys, like Cameron Johnson, is just a wish list thing for me, because I feel like he would make so much sense, but like the asking price seems like 2 first-round picks, and I feel like the Grizzlies are going to be all in on him. I don't know why. Yeah. I just feel like they've been in the market for a forward for quite some time, and they've struck out, like, I want to say the past 3 deadlines of trying to just dangle, future draft picks, and the teams just don't want to deal with them. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm like I said a few minutes ago, I'm really like on the younger side of things if I were to be like in the GM seat. So I'm like, again, Colin Sexton is someone who's not too old at all. He's like a young veteran, and I know he's someone who plays hard. I think he's become a better shooter. He's not great, but I think he could just be another really good like ball handler. You would trust him to either create for himself or others. And he's on the younger side a little bit. So, and I feel like he just plays hard defensively as well. So, yeah, those two.
He played for JB too in Cleveland.
Forgot about that.
That's the reason why I did put it on here, because I feel like when Ivy does come back, he's already playing off the bench in Utah. So like he probably wouldn't have that big of a like deal of like, hey, like, Ivy's coming back, you're going back to the bench to be a backup. I feel like the ego thing with him is like so far past gone, because he's already on a rebuilding team in Utah right now. So I feel like the fit with him would probably be pretty seamless, and he's a pretty good on-ball defender from what I've watched. Very limited. I'm not out there watching Utah Jazz games, even though I did see that they were smacking the Orlando Magic around, which hey, it's kind of funny. But right. I mean, like, other than that, I think a lot of these guys I named, like DeAndre Hunter, that's another wish list thing. Who knows what the Hawks do with Jalen Johnson being out for the remainder of the year? They may look to like field calls on him. I know during a SARS draft in 2023, they had offered DeAndre Hunter for the 5th pick, and the Pistons said no. Obviously, Sar and Trae Young together. Yeah, you could hide. Yeah, you could hide Trae Young on defense, kind of like how Dyson Daniels is doing that right now. But I mean, a lot of these guys are just wish list. Bobby Portis, I think the only reason why I put him in there is because KOC did like a 5-team like trade proposal that involved Jimmy Butler, and I was like, Bobby Portis and Isaiah Stewart would just be menaces off the bench.
Yeah, I think I guess I kind of didn't really think much about the big men on this list because for one, I'm like, I just think Paul Reed like makes so many of the right plays. Like yesterday, for example, he obviously got more minutes because Stu was suspended, and he just makes the right reads a lot of times as like the short roller in certain situations. Like his shot may look interesting, but like he works on that consistently. And so I like Paul Reed. I think he does some good things and just doesn't really have much opportunity. But Bobby Portis is a dog, and I'm a fan of his as well.
Yeah, I mean, like Bobby Portis just kind of has all that DNA as a Piston. And him being able to stretch the floor, I think, is something that's really appealing defensively. Obviously, he's not playing the same as he was because Doc Rivers is coaching, and Doc's a little bit more defensive-minded versus a Mike Budenholzer. But I've been a fan of Bobby for quite some time. Malcolm Brogdon is another one. I think I mentioned it to you last time you were on in December. Like, I've been keeping an eye on Washington because who knows what the hell they're going to do.
Right.
I think they're like on a 16 or 17 game losing streak right now. I feel like
the clues.
Yeah, like he makes sense as a backup guard, but the contract is similar to Lonzo. Like they're both 20 million expiring, but you know, the ball handling, being a vet, playing for championship caliber teams like the Bucks and the Celtics. His thing is just health and like how healthy could he possibly be? But yeah, this list took me way too long to make.
It's a good list, though. I like this list.
Honestly, I think it took me like a good 2 hours. I went on Fanspo and just looked at like under the radar guys because a lot of people wanted me to put like Brandon Ingram. Why isn't he on?
Yeah, right.
I was like, I don't think I can talk Brandon Ingram anymore. Talked about him, I think, all summer, and I got to the point I was just like, I can't talk about Brandon Ingram anymore, you guys. It's just don't know what to tell you.